Near Malmedy in the Ardennes, during the Battle of the Bulge, a group of American soldiers was herded off the road into a snowy field by German SS troops. They were unarmed, hands up, expecting to be taken to the rear as prisoners of war. Then one SS officer raised his pistol as a signal, and a moment later the machine guns opened fire. The only men who lived were the few who dropped into the snow and lay still, pretending to be dead among their friends. The 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion was a support unit. Their job was to spot enemy guns and direct American artillery, not to fight tanks at close range. On the morning of December 17th, their convoy was moving along narrow Ardennes roads. At the same time, Hitler's last offensive in the West had just begun. The Battle of the Bulge. One of the lead German formations was Kampfgruppe Piper, a Waffen-SS battle group with tanks and half-tracks driving hard through the snow. Near the Baugnez crossroads, Piper's column ran into the American convoy. The Germans had armor and heavy weapons. The Americans had trucks and light arms. When German tanks fired into the lead and rear vehicles, the road became a trap. Lieutenant Virgil Larry saw there was no way to fight out. Surrounded by tanks in open country, he ordered his men to cease fire and surrender. The guards positioned the prisoners in the middle of the field, away from the road. It was flat, open ground, covered with snow. No trees, no buildings, no trenches. Just a cluster of American prisoners watched by SS men with submachine guns. More captured Americans were added to the group. In total, roughly 120 men stood there, cold, unarmed, and uncertain what would happen next. Most expected to be marched to the rear. Some spoke quietly. Others watched the German vehicles still rumbling past, but the situation felt wrong. The prisoners were too exposed, too close to the front. No one was being moved away from the battlefield. Then the tone of the guards changed. An SS man raised a pistol. Orders were shouted. A turret turned toward the cluster of prisoners. Some of the Americans understood in that instant that something was very wrong. Without warning, machine guns and automatic weapons opened fire on the packed group. Men in the front ranks were cut down immediately. Others were hit and knocked to the ground. Bullets tore through the tightly packed prisoners. Panic exploded. Some tried to run toward the hedgerow at the edge of the field. Others simply dropped straight down where they stood. In that chaos, a few men made the one choice that could save them. They let themselves fall and stayed down, going limp in the snow, letting other bodies pile on top. The firing came in bursts. Americans who tried to bolt toward nearby buildings were shot. A cafe at the crossroads where some men had taken shelter would later be burned, with wounded still inside. For the men lying in the open field, survival now meant one thing: do not move. When the main bursts of fire died down, another kind of terror began. Survivors later recalled hearing footsteps crunching through the snow and German voices closing in. SS men walked among the fallen, looking for signs of life. If they saw movement, they fired a single shot at close range. One man felt the body lying across him jerk as it was hit again. Another was grazed by a bullet but did not dare cry out. Some had their faces pressed into the snow, trying to breathe slowly so that steam from their breath would not be visible. The cold was brutal, but it helped. Numb hands and feet made it easier to stay still. The weight of dead and wounded comrades pinned some survivors in place. After a while, the Germans moved away. Kampfgruppe Piper was on a strict timetable, ordered to push west as fast as possible. Prisoners would have slowed them down. They left the field and continued their advance. Engines started. Tracks and wheels clattered back onto the road. The voices faded, and the field near Malmedy went quiet again. Only later, as the afternoon wore on and the cold deepened, did the survivors dare to move. One by one, men worked themselves free from the pile of bodies. Some crawled at first, testing whether anyone would shoot. When no shots came, they headed toward the tree line, away from the road and the field. Many were wounded. Few had proper winter clothing left, but they moved toward American lines around Malmedy. Small groups of survivors finally reached U.S. positions. Bloody, shaken, and half-frozen, they told military police and officers what had happened at the Baugnez crossroads, how over 100 American prisoners had been lined up in an open field and gunned down. At first, the story sounded almost impossible, but the men telling it were clearly not inventing anything, and more bodies were soon found in the snow. For the 84 men who never left that field, the war ended in the snow of Belgium on December 17, 1944. For the few who crawled away, their escape and their testimony made sure the world knew what happened that day near Malmedy. After the war, the United States put members of Kampfgruppe Piper on trial for what happened at the Baugnez crossroads. In 1946, at Dachau, dozens of SS men were charged with war crimes. Several received death sentences, others long prison terms, and the survivors of the field in the snow testified about what they had seen. Sentences would later be reduced or commuted, and arguments about the fairness of the trial went on for years. But the massacre near Malmedy was never forgotten. The field where the prisoners fell and the men who crawled away to tell the story became one of the darkest chapters of the Battle of the Bulge.